What's the backstory behind pig farts?
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. That is a really long story. It's been so many different things. I guess the first thing, I guess where it originated was that I really don't know the backstory behind this, but I heard J.K. Rowling had a first husband, and I guess they got divorced. I really don't know too much about J.K. Rowling's personal life, but I was like, God, that guy's such an idiot. How did he screw up that bad that he divorced J.K. Rowling? Such a genius. And we just made jokes about him, like, reading the manuscript to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and saying, that's silly, and just being such a jerk. But then years later, when, like, she became the biggest, most famous thing ever, he would set up meetings with her and say like, why don't you read my manuscript? And he wrote a story called Larry Smotter and the Mystery at Pig Farts. And he said Pig Farts was on Mars. And then it eventually... Now, keep in mind, we talk about these jokes that develop over years. Eventually, we started talking about, like, Rumble Roar, the headmaster at Pig Farts, and we started making Draco talk about pig farts, and just all this stupid stuff.
Nick's here. This is Matt's brother. He's he can say a couple things.
I'm Nick. I helped write the show. I just Pig Farts developed over a couple years. We like Rumble Roar. Rumble Roar developed kind of an Aslan parody. Because he's a talking lion, so kind of like a Narnia sort of thing thrown in there.
Because Dumbledore is sort of like a throwback to Gandalf.
Yeah. So, and we made up like a whole story of pig farts that we'll have to tell at someday. Because it's like a really magical place, pig farts, and like all of the teachers are talking animals. Like, there's Professor Snake, who is he's like the concoctions professor.
The thing about it was just like this really, really crappy knockoff of Harry Potter. My favorite, I think the most clever one is McGonagall's, and she's the teacher that's a flying fish.
She's a flying fish. So it's like it's on Mars, and all of the teachers are talking animals, and they just have like these space adventures. They're space wizards instead of regular wizards.
All right, we don't need to talk about pig farts anymore.
It's
awesome.
Really good. There's more pig farts.
There's a lot.
So
before anybody goes off and makes all this fan fiction, know that there is an actual true source of
there's an
farts.
Official pig farts canon that we'll have to eventually release because it's an epic story.
Oh, you should. That would be awesome.
All right, cool. Bye, Nick. Nick's gonna
Bye,
go.
guys.
Nick's leaving.
Bye.
All right.
Anyway, so that's that.
It's pig farts.
Okay. My next one is, why did you choose to use the Zac Efron poster as a Horcrux?
Jeez. That's another thing, because I thought it was funny. We always knew we wanted a picture of Zac Efron hanging in Dumbledore's office, just because we're like, that's where like the headmasters are all hung up, and all the most respected people in the world are hung up all around Dumbledore that he talks to if he ever needs advice.
If we had way more money, we would have had tons of pictures in if we had any money at all. Jesus. To put like in Dumbledore's office, like a bunch of pictures. Like we had this idea. It was like a picture with Dumbledore and I think it was Brian's idea. I forget. With like Elton John and like all these like British like
one sort of low blow was there were pictures all over the place of Dumbledore with famous gay men. Like Dumbledore with Elton John, Dumbledore on the set of Lord of the Rings with Ian McKellen, and I don't know why we did that. It's like a lot of the Dumbledore gay stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to ever come out and like that joke is just too easy, and there's no reason to make that a joke.
What made you think of the Quirrell-Voldemort relationship dynamic? Like, how'd that come about?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. It was like, I was just thinking, because there are a lot of things in the Harry Potter book that I think are just silly. Just some of the concepts I think are so goofy. And the fact that Voldemort had a plan in which he went up to somebody and said, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to go on the back of your head for an entire year just at the end of the year, we'll try to kill Potter.
Yeah, and
I was like,
interactions on a day-to-day
like, what
basis.
would they do every day? Like, how they watch TV, they have to eat breakfast together. I was like, I can't believe that happened for a whole year.
What a
what kind of a
would ensue.
Yeah, and it was like that was another goofy sort of joke we had along with pig farts. I said that I wanted to make a movie that was the story of Voldemort and Quirrell, and it was called One Crazy Year. But yeah.
Are there any funny backstage stories or funny things from the rehearsals that fans would like to know?
Oh my god, not that I can think of the top of my
Oh,
head, but
there
was so much fun though.
There actually is one that's a really
you're
good
talking
one.
about
I'm
Walker?
talking, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
One time, because we had this theater packed beyond capacity.
Yeah.
There were so many people in it.
We're not used to people seeing our shows. Like I've said earlier in the interview, that like Basement Arts is like a company that like is really just kind of relaxed. It's free. Like nobody makes any money. There's not a huge production. It's very humble. Mm-hmm. So like I have to break people's arms to see these shows usually. Yeah. And the fact that people were coming in from Chicago and from all over the place to take their kids to see our show, we were like, what the hell? Like, oh my god,
cool.
like nobody sees our shows. Like nobody.
So the thing was, the theater was packed with the most people I've ever seen in that theater. And we were going, God, must be breaking some sort of fire code or something. I hope there's not a fire. So we were thinking about that. And then I wish Joe Walker was here to tell this story, because I'm now speaking from his point of view. Mm-hmm. He just did a scene, and he was backstage, and he was getting ready to go on again when he smelled smoke. And he said, what? And he looked out the window, and one of the garbage cans right outside the building was on fire. Yeah. And the building was filling up with smoke. So not only would, like, if the smoke alarm went off, would we have to stop the show and the show would be ruined, but also people would get hurt trying to get out of that theater. Yeah. So Joe Walker, in his Voldemort makeup and costume, went, yeah, and ran outside, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and put out a fire outside.
Yeah, he saved the day, and I wish we could have gotten that on camera.
If somebody got that on tape, what a strange sight to
funny.
see.
You just see this guy with this, like,
you just see Lord
like
Voldemort going, shh, and putting out a fire.
Shirtless guy with, like, a cape and, like, white makeup.
Like, putting out a fire.
Yeah.
But there's like a million goofy stories, but
I mean, like, you know, we're all just pals, you know, like we all lived, so Matt and I, Matt, myself, and I'll use the character names for people to understand. So Matt, the director, Harry Potter, Snape, Goyle, Voldemort, Dumbledore, we all pretty much live together. So it's, you know, we have tons of stories of just kind of, you know, hanging out, I guess. Maybe are funny to us, but I think that's really the best one as far as like a big grandiose tale.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's cool.
That was very cool. I have another. Oh, on the night that the show was recorded, that's on YouTube, and someone mentioned like someone put a thing where they were like, "Oh man, listen to this kid's funny laugh," and so I listened to it, and it's that of a child's, because so it was very odd for us to have, I mean, not really, because, you know, the name sells itself, but we had families coming with their kids, and so obviously at the beginning, Brian would have to make a disclaimer of, like, listen, this is not appropriate for all ages, this is a parody, you know, this is not just a Harry Potter musical, you know, this is the parody made by fans, and you're at a college, so, you know, for goodness sake, you know, what do you expect? So we had, you can see a lot of people on the floor. We had about 4 rows of people sitting on the floor, and that night there were a lot of kids, and actually the one that was filmed and on YouTube was probably the cleanest of the 4 shows we did, because, you know, we saw kids, and so there's a lot of cussing that isn't in it, which is good because it ended up going on the internet, but there's a lot of, so I remember during intermission that night, I would see a lot of families leaving, aside from the fact that it was really hot in that theater and it was like a 3-hour show, and by the end of the first act, people were like, oh my god, it's not over yet. I do remember like going backstage and being like, yeah, that was awesome, and seeing this like exodus of like parents dragging their kids away from this, being like, what did we do? Yeah. So I'd like to think that the parents enjoyed it and they were bummed out that they had to leave, but they, you know, as good parents, and you know, it's wise to leave. So that's probably what happened. Let's hope so. So that's my story, I guess.